the most delicious stone we've ever eaten. For most of history, it is all a far more precious commodity than people imagine. Now its price is pitifully low. However, for this ordinary white crystal, frequent wars, state disintegration. But what makes this seemingly simple condiment so important? And it's very profitable. First of all, you really can't live without it. Without salt, your muscles cramp, will get dizzy. Eventually all your cells will shut down. You might think that this essential mineral, easy to get. After all, the ocean is full of him. But turning seawater into usable salt, it's a lot harder than it sounds. Well known, boiling water requires a lot of energy. You can do that with the sun. It is true that people have been one of the methods used. Certainly, this method is only available in hot coastal areas, in a sunny climate, to function reliably, and provided the weather is not rainy. Fortunately, nature has given us another more reliable, a large number of raw minerals deep underground along the source. Becoming a rock miner is a cruel fate. For example, the Romans often regarded this fate imposed on slaves and criminals. These two methods are relevant to what we use today. The methods of rock climbing are almost the same. However, with primitive technology, they were extremely slow and laborious. But the high cost of speech is not just from the supply side. No, the coast has a critical use. Driven almost all pre-industrial civilizations, the demand for it, food preservation. You see, in the pre-refrigeration era, to put meat, keep fish and vegetables for more than a few days is extremely difficult, unless they were poured into a vat full of salt. Up to 90% of salt production is used to pickle food, rather than seasoning. This is precisely why the salt trade is so rich. Romans in Roman harbor, large salt pans were built near Ostia, when the salt supply in Rome was low. From every corner of the empire, a large shipment of salt. Strict trade was essential to Rome's survival, so much so that the Romans named one of their main roads Via Salaria, and along the road, coincidentally, what we call salary, Roman legion soldiers buy salt. The allowance is also derived from this same tax deferral. It has always been a kingdom around the world, and the empire's main source of income, almost to this day. But that's not the case. Thank you to today's sponsors, heroes of history. You can also pay taxes without deferring. Build your own legendary empire. Guide your civilization through time and space with words. The value of the salt trade. It doesn't necessarily mean that salt itself is that expensive. Assessing the price of something 2,000 years ago is really hard. But our good friend Levi just happens to leave us with a good benchmark. 200 for BC. The price of a kilogram of Roman salt. About 1/10 of the daily wage of a Roman legion soldier. If you put today's salt price comparison with the modern minimum wage, you will find that ancient salt was indeed more expensive, but not ridiculously expensive. The price of salt in ancient Rome. That's about 4 times the size of the United States today. 15th century France had a similar benchmark. That's about 8% of the daily wage. But there is a problem in areas with high tax deferrals. Prices can be as high as 20 times. The French king relied heavily on this extension, taxes to help the war. But the people eventually grew tired of him and their king. That led to the French Revolution. Although long-term sponsors, the Napoleon of the mission soon, and then they restored him. Strict taxes also destroyed another empire, British India, Mahatma Gandhi. The famous Forbidden Forces were launched there. This eventually led to the independence of India, despite the salt tax. But salt is not like a colonial-era spice. It's a real luxury. And the salt trade focuses more on quantity than price. The advent of the Industrial Revolution makes cigarettes a truly inexpensive commodity. You have a steam engine that pumps water out of rocks, blasts the rock from the wall with dynamite, and ships carrying rocks around the world. The availability of salt has become easier, but the real change doesn't come from the mines. It came from the kitchen. With the invention of canning and refrigeration technology, all of a sudden, storing food is no longer necessary. Bury it under the salt mountain. This also cost him the most in his history. Important use. Now, many missing requirements are being exploited by industry. Salt is used to make glass, chlorine plastics, and a variety of other amazing uses. Therefore, the ancients searched for this important mineral, but ironically reversed. In the past, the world urgently needed enough salt. And now, we are often warned that we are eating too much salt. But anyway, thank you my dear friends for watching. We embarked on a delicious adventure. If you are interested in our future destination and other delicious suggestions, you can leave a message below. Did you hear about the murder in the kitchen? It's a river battery.